Hey guys, it's Melody again here. I have another 8 by 12 inch layout. This is to be the back side of the last layout that I did in my album. As you can see here, I've cut this gray polka dotted paper and I actually left the manufacturer strip on there because it fits the colors of my layout. I'm going for green and gray, and the reason I'm going for green is because we're actually at the zoo and there's a lot of greenery outside the front of the zoo, and also I have this gorilla pin that Kaylin got at one of the little shops while we were there, and it has a lot of green on there as well. And then of course I found this card, this 3x4 card. I believe it was from a Me and My Big Ideas set, and it says the whole gang. And so my title is going to be At the Zoo, but the card's going to be right in front of it, so it's going to basically say the whole gang at the zoo. So I've got this dark blue paper that I'm actually going to mat my photo on. It wasn't really there to add a whole lot other than just to separate the edge of the photo from the background paper. It needed a little bit of a grounding element. So I'm trying to figure out what to do here. I have pulled out all of my stitching templates. These are from Amy Tangerine, and I'm actually going to use this kind of olivey, grassy green embroidery floss and do some stitching in the corners. It's just to add a little bit to it. It's going to take me quite a while to do this. I'm going to let you see kind of one corner, and then I'm going to skip ahead to it being almost done. So I know some people separate their floss whenever they do the stitching. I don't. I just use the entire what is it, like 6-ply, I believe, something like that. Side note, I love the back of this paper too. Like, this fuchsia circle pattern is so cute, but it didn't work for what I was looking for. Just doing a simple back stitch here so you'll be able to see the outline of my little corner part. I don't know what you would call this. Basically a stitched photo corner, but on the edge of the paper, I guess. I had to pull up my template to make sure that I was stitching in the right spots. It gets much quicker later whenever I'm doing this off camera, but at first I was like, wait, what am I doing? It just doesn't look right. And then of course I cut my string way too short, so I end up having to thread it back on the needle, put it to the back, secure it with some washi tape, and then cut some more. Now, I don't really like having a really long piece of thread because then I'm constantly like pulling my arm way out trying to make it tight. But there's definitely a lot of thread that's going to be used in this layout. Not that it's a big deal, because I've probably had this embroidery floss for, oh gosh, probably over 15 years. Whenever we would go visit my grandmother in Florida, we live in North Carolina and she lives in Florida, I would do cross stitching on our drive down. It took like, I think it took like 11 hours. No, that can't be right. Something like 10 hours to get down there. So we would have our Game Boys. I had two sisters. We would cross stitch. We would do games, all kinds of stuff. So anyways, back to the layout. That's why I have so much embroidery floss, by the way. It's from all those different cross stitch projects I never finished. I have all this embroidery floss. I don't think I've bought any more since then. That's just how much I have. But it works well with these Amy Tangerine stitching templates. And then I also have some basil templates that I got from Archivers on clearance a couple years ago. You may have seen them at the beginning of the layout. They're just the alphabets. But I'm gonna break those out and use those. I've never used those before, but that would be a really cool way to stitch a title onto a layout as well. So now I've got my corners done, and as you can see, it just adds a little bit of something to the edges. They're kind of wonky looking, because they're not perfect, but they're just kind of cool looking. It adds some texture without adding a whole bunch of bulk. I did have this flyer up here on the top right of the screen here that you can see that my corner chomper's laying on. I cut out the address label for the zoo, and then I'm adding it to the layout as well. I'm just matting it on some of this green paper as well as this navy blue paper, just so it kind of stands out a little bit more, and it also will then match the color scheme. Going to trim a tad bit off the top of this 3x4 card. I love using pre-made elements on my layouts. And okay, so quick tip. I didn't have any more O's, or not enough O's from this thicker set, so I took the number 8s in here, and I cut off the top of them, so it basically made lowercase O's, and then the NC fits right on top of that. Kind of clever. I'm trying to figure out how to use all these stickers that I have like small tiny packs of, because I love them. I'm never going to throw them away. I just have to figure out how to use them. I don't know, I've heard a couple people say that they just kind of put a couple different words together when they get low so they can see what they have to work with, but um, I don't know, I haven't done that yet. I've just been trying to figure out how to use them. I added some sticky tape to the back of my button there, and I did pull off the pin part of the button so that added bulk is not there. One of our favorite parts of the zoo is to see the monkeys, so I had to include that on here. Oh, and then I have part of my journaling is about Kaylin not wanting to be part of the family photo. You can see how few of these um, letters I have left. I have a lot of numbers, but I have very few letters. So I cut apart, I think it was a Z. I did cut apart something to make that arrow. Adding a bit of washi tape here, of course, in the green. So I wanted to draw a little bit of attention to Kaylin, because that's what part of the journaling is going to be about. It's just going to be a small bit of journaling, but it's going to be about how Kaylin did not want to be in the family picture, like, at all. So my sisters are like looking at the camera. I'm looking at Kaylin trying to get him to come over. Kaylin's back's turned to the camera, and then my nephew's sitting in the stroller. So you can see him a little bit, but you can't really see him a whole lot. So yeah, it was kind of a funny picture because we'd been at the zoo all day, and then we end up with this kind of like funky, crazy family picture. And then grandma's not even in the photo. So it was just kind of funny. And I used one of these little Polaroid um, pieces from, I think it's from the Dear Lizzie Neapolitan collection. You can see them on the left there. I cut them out of the 12 by 12. And this is one of those that was kind of hanging off the edge where it wasn't a full Polaroid. So I'm actually using the bottom almost as like a label sticker. And I made a bit of a boo-boo in my journaling, so that's why I was using that enamel dot to cover it up. All right, and that pretty much completes the layout. I'm just going to add a little bit more um, like kind of a subtitle or so. It says the Wagstaff Girls. Wagstaff is my maiden name, so that's what we were always called when we were kids, was the Wagstaff Girls, especially like at church and stuff. So I don't know why, it just kind of came back to me at the same time, since it was my sisters and I standing there. So it was like it's the whole gang, the Wagstaff Girls at the North Carolina Zoo. So okay, it's kind of a long title, but it just kind of made me chuckle, so I had to put it in there. I will have some still photos at the end. This layout took me about 45 minutes to complete, and I guess that's it. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today, and keep an eye out for the next video coming. Thank you. Bye.